Keep the Heroes Out is a 1 to 6 player game for ages 14 and up with an average gameplay length of 45 to 60 minutes, published by boardgames. The basic overview of Keep the Heroes Out has players working together to defend their dungeon from invading heroes. By playing cards from your hand, these cards will help you move, attack, and activate rooms and abilities. Once a player has played all the cards they wish, the heroes will enter the dungeon in an attempt to loot your vault. If they open your vault chest, you lose, but if you keep them out for 2 waves, the players win. To set up the game, search your dungeon book for the desired scenario. For your first game, Scenario 1 is recommended. Collect rooms and set them exactly as they are shown on the scenario page. To better show the whole dungeon, we will turn the dungeon 90 degrees. Starting from the bottom left, you will have the graveyard, beast trainer, and study rooms. Above the graveyard, we have the forge, a space with no room, our vault, apothecary, and our cells. Above the forge, we will have the library, sewers, and workshop. Make sure your doorways are all lined up. Gather all treasure chests and shuffle them number side up and place them in the rooms as displayed on the scenario page. Place a number 1 chest in the graveyard and library. Place a number 2 chest in the forge, beast trainer, sewers, and cell rooms. And place a number 3 chest in the library, workshop, and apothecary. And finally, the number 4 chest in your vault. Also, place 2 face-down portals in the dungeon, one in the vault and the other in the forge. And to remind you of the scenario's event, place a single event token, exclamation points facing up, in the apothecary room. And the last part of setup for this scenario is to add 2 witch cards with the 1 on the top right corner to signify they are part of Scenario 1 to the Heroes deck. The Heroes deck consists of all mages, archers, warriors, and rogues. Depending upon the difficulty you choose, place them on the difficulty tile blue side up. Shuffle loot deck and lay out 5 cards face up to create a loot market. Also place all hero tokens, resource tokens, trap tokens, and wound tokens within reach of all players. Next, each player will choose a monster clan and collect both their meeples and starting deck. There are 3 types of monster groups. You have the crowd controllers, such as the red dragon, lizard folk, and gnolls, that have a lot of attack cards. The second type are the defenders, like the slimes, skeletons, and ratkins, that allow you to summon monsters with ease. The third type is support, like the imps, poltergeists, and witches. They have a lot of movement and activate cards to help you bring in resources and move them around for you and other players to use to gain more loot cards. For a few more details and tips on every monster clan, check out the rulebook page about them. When looking at a clan card, you will see, starting from the top right, the special action this monster can use. Below that, you will see the total number of monster clan meeples, number of health each monster has, and total number of starting cards. On the left is the room type. You can place your starting meeples and the number of meeples you start with. The meeples can be split in the rooms with the matching type however you would like, as long as you do not surpass the number listed. Shuffle your tactics deck and draw 5 cards to create your starting hand, and set the other cards aside as your draw deck. And the player with the least amount of monsters in their clan will take the active player token. You can use the back of an unused monster clan card as a player aid. Starting with the active player, you will play any and all cards you would like in your hand. The most common actions you will come across are move, action, and some form of attack. A couple things to keep in mind when playing a card. Any monster can use any single icon on the card in any order. For example, this monster can move using this move icon, and this monster here can attack. However, if there is a slash, you have to decide which of the actions to use. Also, if there is a swarm icon, all monsters in the room must perform the action, but can split up. Like in this swarm move action, all monsters in this room will move one space, but two will move in this direction, while the other will move in this direction. For a full detailed list, check the back of the rulebook. Since there are no heroes currently in the dungeon, let's attempt to prepare for their invasion. The first thing we will do is use an action card to activate this portal. It is useless until another portal is activated, but it will help us move around the dungeon with greater ease. Next, we will move and move. Then we will move and melee attack, but since there is no one to attack, we just ignore that this turn. We will move and ignore melee attack again, and finally activate a second portal. Now these two rooms can be moved between using the portal and count only as one move. If you played all the cards from your hand, you can draw back up to 5 cards. But if you have any cards left in your hand, you can discard one and remove any number of loot cards from the loot market and replace them with new ones. Or if you are happy with the current loot market, you will draw the number of cards to have 5 total cards in hand. Once back at 5 cards, the hero invasion will begin. In this example, we drew a mage, and we will place it in the rooms listed. Depending on difficulty and wave number, you will draw a certain number of heroes from the guild deck. On the hero card, you will see a room type. You will then place a single hero of that type in the room type depicted. In the order of your choosing, the heroes will activate their special abilities. If an archer, they will attack one monster in an adjacent room in the direction of the vault for 1 damage. If a warrior, they will discard up to 2 resources in the room he is summoned. If a rogue is summoned in a room with a trap, the trap is discarded. And if the mage is summoned in the cells, reactivate all heroes in the cells, including the summoned mage. And if a scenario card is revealed, follow the special scenario rules. In this scenario, if a witch is drawn and there is a frog token in the apothecary, nothing happens. But if there is not, the witch will be angry and force each player to discard 1 card from their hand. After all special abilities have been taken by the heroes who entered the dungeon this turn, they will try to loot and attack monsters. Starting with whichever hero you would like, and move down their checklist. First, check the room for traps. If a trap is in the room, it does 1 damage to the hero, and you remove that hero and trap from the dungeon. If not, move on to see if there are exhausted heroes in the room. This is the first time they have entered the dungeon, so there will be no exhausted heroes. Next, if there is a monster in the same room as the hero, they will attack the monster for 1 damage and then exhaust itself by flipping over to their gray side. Players can play defense cards from their hand to prevent damage. However, they will have less cards in hand at the start of their next turn. If there are no monsters, they will attempt to open the loot chest in the room. The number on each chest is the number of active heroes required to open it. If the number of heroes is less than the number on the chest, the heroes will exhaust themselves trying to open it. If there are enough, flip the chest over and resolve the effect. The effects are Spoil, which has you discard 1 resource in the room, Curse, which has all players discard 1 card from their hand, Heal, which reactivates all heroes in this room, Prisoner, which has you draw a hero card from the guild deck and place one of them in the cell room, And if it's a mage, its ability activates. And finally, if the defeat icon is revealed, you have lost the game. If there are no monsters and the chest is already open, they will charge to the next room going towards the vault and begin again at the top of this checklist. Check for traps, activate any heroes already in that room, attack, plunder, and wait. Once all heroes are exhausted, pass the active player token to the next player and they will begin their turn. In this example, the player has less cards in hand due to defending their monsters from the hero's last turn. So in order to have more cards to play, the player wishes to push their luck. At any time during a player's turn, they may push their luck once. What that means is you will draw a hero card from the guild deck and place one of that hero type exhausted side up in the cell room. And then you can draw 3 new cards from your draw deck. If the card drawn is a scenario card, you do not need to place anything in the cell and you can still draw the 3 new cards. But if it is a mage, it will reactivate any and all heroes in the cell room, including itself, and those heroes will take their turn, and then once all those heroes are exhausted, you can continue with your turn. On the bright side, you still get to draw the 3 new cards. The player will play the rest of the cards from their hand. With the move skill, they're able to take a single item with them when moving from one room to the next. And with the action icon, they are able to use the room's ability, allowing them to collect a loot card of that type. Once collected, it is placed in their discard pile for future use. They continue playing cards until they are finished with that phase. Refill any empty spots in the loot market and draw back up to 5 cards from their draw deck and proceed to the hero invasion phase. Draw heroes and place them in the dungeon and proceed with their turn. And again, once all heroes are exhausted, pass the active player token to the next player. Continue like this until the guild deck is empty. Once the deck is empty, reshuffle the guild deck and replace the difficulty tile with the red side of the same difficulty. Place the shuffled guild deck on top of it, and starting the second wave, you will now draw 2 hero cards from the deck during each hero's invasion phase. If you are able to make it to the end of the deck without losing your number 4 chest in your vault, you have won the scenario. However, if the heroes open the number 4 chest anytime during the game, you will lose immediately. A couple things to keep in mind when playing. If you ever lose all your monsters in the dungeon, try to play summon cards to bring them back on your turn. Actions can be taken in any order listed on the card and can be split up between monsters in different rooms. Also, once the supply of a resource runs out, you will not be able to place any new resources of that type into the dungeon until after it has been discarded back to the supply. When moving, each monster can only carry a single item with them to another room. And this also is the case when using the portal to move. And finally, if you draw a hero card and there is not enough hero tokens in the supply to place them in the dungeon, all heroes in the rooms of that type of hero will reactivate and take their turn. If you run into any issues with the actions or have hero invasion questions, the back of the rulebook has a list of action types and the back of the dungeon book has the hero invasion flowchart. And with all that, you can now start playing Keep the Heroes Out. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified about new videos. If you're bored now, click this for more games.